This is StoryScape, a timeline-locked Iron Man account and a series with a focus on the quests and exploring the story of RuneScape. Basically, it's Temu by release. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different from the last few. I have been quitting smoking the last few weeks, so that's why. But I'm going to keep getting more awkward, and let's just start the video. Okay, so next we have Observatory Quest, and I thought this was just another little nothing job for a rando during the adventurer's early days. I knew that there had once, long ago, been plans for a sequel, but this never materialised. However, the observatory does actually have some established history in the world and a reason for its existence, but we'll get to that. Nestled in a valley on the eastern edge of the Galapagos Mountains, we meet Professor Mambo Dunnerunner. That is his actual name. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but anyway. Better known as the Observatory Professor, who welcomes us to the wonder of the observatory. A truly marvellous invention, the likes of which you'll never behold again. Well, it would be if it worked. Through a bickering exchange between the pretentious professor and his exasperated, overworked assistant, we learn that goblins have recently moved into the nearby village and the dungeon beneath the observatory, and have wrought havoc on the telescope and bridge. So of course, Mambo Dunnerunner requires our help in fixing it. He needs 3 planks, a bronze bar and some molten glass. Patrick, his far more normally named assistant, is able to help us find any of the materials if we're struggling, which is very important to this particular account because I can only go to places I've unlocked through questing. And apparently Patrick is able to read the future from the stars, because for the planks he sends us to Fort Foreign 3, which is still in ruins and will be for another 2 decades. So I don't think that's an option. Thankfully though, he also suggests Port Khazard, which has 2 plank spawns. The bronze bar was easily mined and smelted in Lumbridge. And then for the molten glass, which requires sand and seaweed. Simple, right? Well, no, actually. Here's where the sandpits are, and here's the areas I have access to. Then there's the seaweed, which has quite a few spawns, nearly all of which are on Karamja, which for the most part, yeah, I don't have access to yet. Patrick points us to a glass-blowing book on the nearby table, and next to it is a lore book. In the early years of the 4th Age, the Zamorakian mage Scorpius was desperate to commune with his god, banished as he was by the edicts set in place by Guthix at the end of the God Wars in the age before. And it was with this fervour that after many years of study, he was able to create a machine that married technology and magic, a great eye that could pierce the very heavens. But the machine would eventually be destroyed, seen as evil by the followers of Saradomin. It's unclear whether this happened when Lord Haziel lost control of Kandrin to Saradominus forces an age later, or if it was a small raid that happened sometime during the near 2,000 years that span the 4th Age. But it wouldn't matter, because time would eventually vindicate Scorpius' research, and when mankind once again looked to study the heavens, his plans were found and the observatory reconstructed, becoming the main bastion of the study of astronomy in all of Gillinor. His research and star charts still taught to this day. But anyway, the glass-blowing book. Now, this does mention Intrana, which has both seaweed and sand, and while that alone would technically be enough to give me access, I wasn't directly told it by a quest NPC, so I chose to pick some more obscure locations I definitely already had access to. For the sand, it was back to the Hobgoblin Peninsula west of Rimmington. While there isn't an actual sandpit here, there is a random pile of sand that you can use a bucket on. Then for the seaweed, I did unlock all of Musa Point and Pirate's Treasure, and on the beach near Karamja Volcano, there was a single spawn. Unnecessary little side mission completed. Excellent work, let's make the lens. It'll need to be the exact shape and size. Well, obviously, hence why we have a lens mold. Not anymore. One of those goblins took it. Great, just what I need. StoryScape, I don't suppose you could find it. Of course. To retrieve the mold, we venture down into the dungeon beneath the observatory. From here, we'll need to find our way into the kitchen on the northern side, the key to which can be found in any one of 10 chests located throughout, which I somehow lucked into getting in the first chest I searched. Then we need to deal with a guard who you can either lure away or kill. And it turns out that the goblins have been using the lens mold to cook stew. So Mr. Asbestos Hands here just picks it straight up. We need to cool down the cog in Clock Tower, but apparently the impied gloves are enough to protect. Actually, no, that kind of makes sense. Don't need to though. Back at the reception, we make the lens, then venture back through the dungeon to reach the observatory, because, you know, the bridge is still broken. Once we get there, we're treated to a short cutscene as Mambo I can't get over the fact that that's his actual name. as Mambo Donnarumma goes around fixing his ship. Finally, we look through the telescope and learn that StoryScape is in fact Pisces, just like me in real life. Maybe it'll actually mean something in RuneScape though, but we'll never know because despite the hints of a sequel that will repair the bridge, this never came to pass and the Professor won't feature seriously in another quest for, you guessed it, 20 years. So if the new skill announced last year really does turn out to be astronomy, it'll be interesting to see if and how the observatory plays a role in it. Next we have Dwarf Cannon. Like the Observatory Quest, it has remained relatively unchanged in the last 2.5 decades, but unlike the Observatory, it doesn't really have any hidden lore, at least not that I could find anyway. It does, however, demonstrate the dwarves' technological superiority over the other races of Gielinor through the use of slightly more modern machinery. To the northwest of Heminster, we meet an elderly member of the Black Guard, known as Captain Lorgoth, who is in desperate need of aid in pushing back the goblins that have been attacking from the forest to the south. Why the Black Guard are so desperately protecting a coal mine hundreds of miles away from any of their cities or strongholds, I have no fucking clue. It's not like they don't already have access to coal. First on the docket is to repair the fortifications around the coal mine, and the only major change from the original, because as you can see we're not repairing railings anymore, it's stone walls. After threatening to have the adventurer jailed for desertion when they think the quest is done, Captain Lorgoth asks you to perform a covert operation into enemy territory. And by this he means just go and check out the watchtower to the south and find out why they haven't been reporting in on the goblins' movements. Well, I guess that's why. How long has he been fucking dead though? Wait, there's blood around the body. Is this recent? Did the goblins eat him? We report Gilob's untimely demise to Lorgoth, and next he sends us searching for the deceased son, Lolk. He assumes Lolk has been taken away by goblins and sends us off to search for him, saying that the goblins normally attack from the southeast. And in the southeast, in a cave near the fishing guild, we find a fuck ton of goblins, so I'm guessing this is the right place. And at the end of that cave, in a crate, we find a little goth dwarf with a stupid name and send him home. Always a pleasure to help. In that case, I have one more favour to ask of you. I tried doing a Scottish accent for that. It did not work. So now we've got to repair this nearby cannon. A quick little puzzle where you match the tools to the parts. And surely that's it, right? Wrong. Because somehow this esteemed captain of the Black Guard doesn't even know what the Karen fucking fires. Okay, maybe I can see how we got this posting out in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, he sends us to the Blackguard base to the south of Ice Mountain to find out. At which point, the weapons development chief Nulodian realizes they forgot to send the ammo mold. They really don't take this guy seriously, do they? It fires a mold? Oh, for fuck's sake. So, mold in hand, we return to Captain Lorgoth, who promises to write to the cannon engineer requesting that he sells us one. But it's going to be a very long time till we're even close to affording one of those. Quest done. On to the next one. Murder mystery. Lord Sinclair, a wealthy nobleman in Kandarin, has been murdered, and the local guards are at a loss as to who might have done it or why. So of course the only logical course of action is to ask a random passerby for help. So first the why. As many of you probably know, Camelot Castle just east of Sears Village is home to King Arthur and his knights. But this wasn't always the case. Lord Sinclair actually gifted them the castle when they arrived from Terragard 37 years earlier, and moved his family into the much smaller Sinclair mansion that was built specially for them at the order of King Ulthus, the previous king of Kandarin. It's never quite sat right with his children though, and they believe that they deserved Camelot more than Arthur did. So there we have our motive, making the 6 Sinclair children our lead suspects. And you can learn all of this from the gossip just outside the mansion, which truly illustrates the incompetence of the Kandarin guard. We start by inspecting the crime scene, finding a dagger which apparently isn't sturdy enough to kill someone, and a foul-smelling pot which apparently the victim was drinking from before he died. And there's a piece of thread caught on a nearby broken window. The colour of the thread is different for every player, and ours was red. Both Carol and Bob wear red trousers, so those are our suspects. In Bob's room we find a silver cup, and in Carol's barrel Carol's barrel has a silver bottle. Next we grab some flypaper from the shed outside, and using the pot of flour in the kitchen, dust the dagger, cup and bottle for prints, matching those found on the dagger to Carol. But this isn't enough proof because, as previously stated, the dagger likely wasn't sturdy enough to actually do the deed. Giggity. Outside, the aforementioned gossip tells us that the poison salesman in the village recently made a big sale to one of the family. And we meet up with him in the Forester's Arms pub because, you know, that's the perfect place for a poison salesman to do his business, and he tells us that he in fact sold a bottle to every single Sinclair. Helpful. Returning to the mansion, we question Carol about why she bought the poison, and she claims to have needed it to unblock the drains. But the drains haven't been cleared, which combined with everything else is enough evidence to put Carol behind bars. We're back in Misthalin next for what is surprisingly probably one of the most important early quests in the game, being a direct and indirect requirement for more than 60 quests later down the line. Gertrudes Cat. It has received many ultimately inconsequential changes since its release in 2003, the most significant of which simply moved the quest area into Varrock after the removal of the lumberyard in February of 2023. We meet Gertrude in her home on the outskirts of Varrock, distraught at losing her pet cat of 10 years. She doesn't have much in the way of a reward, but does offer us a warm meal. Just a meal. I mean, it's not the best offer I've had, but I suppose I can help. So she offers us some chocolate cake as well, and maybe even a kitten if we seem like a nice sort. Sold! After the way he just spoke to you, I don't think he's a nice sort. After we agree to help, she sends us to speak with her sons, Shylock and Willow, in the marketplace, who are apparently the last ones to see Fluffs. She's not sure why they're there, but she's sure they wouldn't be doing anything bad. I didn't mean to take it, I just forgot to pay. Well, I'm sure they'll make great adventurers someday. After a short interaction and Willow fleecing us out of 100 GP, they send us to their refuge from the lore, the super secret hideout of Shylock and Willow, a ruined building on the western side of Varrock. And lo and behold, Fluffs is up here safe and sound, but doesn't seem to want to leave, so it's time to put the fetch back into the quest. First, Fluffs appears thirsty, so we bring her some nice tasty milk. Now we need to feed her, of course. Gertrude says her favourite food is sardines seasoned with dougal leaves. The leaves can be found right behind her house, and the sardine purchased from Geraint in Port Sarim, who apparently doesn't give a fuck about us stealing from inside his store right in front of him. But even after being fed, Fluffs still won't move. And it's at this point that the adventure hears a faint mewing coming from outside. And in a crate in the ruins next door, we find her 3 kittens. What monster did this to these kittens? They will burn in the fires of Infernus for this. Dude, chill. Let's just get these cats home. Okay. We reunite Fluffs with her children in an adorable little cutscene, and they scamper off home. So now we've got another pet kitten, one who, unlike Nosferatu, will actually be able to interact with us in many quests. So obviously they need a name. We got some extra suggestions we could pick from, but if you have any others, leave them in the comments and we'll spin the wheel again at the beginning of the next episode. Or maybe I'll just go with But Anyway. That one did make me laugh, and it might have been my favourite one. In that case, I have one more favour to ask of you. In that case, I have one more favour to ask of you. In that case, I have one more favour to ask of you. No, I'm not doing a Scottish accent. Shall I leave it in anyway? I don't know.